this is the existing comparisons. So it is, the RM. It is pages 12 through
which document?
13 of the October 19th document, impact versus justification.
Impact and justification.
Yeah. Pages 12 through 14, I'm sorry. Continues on to page 15.
Okay. I would like to suggest that this is an area that we take up, a question we take up next month as well. But before we do that, since Roger, you won't be here next month, and you're the one that raised the question, I'd like to explore a little bit further this evening.
Can I amplify on it a little bit?
Yes.
I understand the roof area and such. If you look at the comment that Mr. Nix put in page 5, densities shall not exceed 3 to 5 dwelling units per acre. However, higher densities may be encouraged by the plan where the density does not have negative effects on natural features, infrastructure, and surrounding properties. So I think it's our duty then to be satisfied that, the answer to that is yes, 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 or maybe it's no, no, no.
Well,
in particular, the infrastructure.
You're correct. And maybe see if I can tie Mr. Nix's memo with what Mr. Mosheri just mentioned from the impact and justification. Do you have that document there in front of you? Page 12. When you look at the, on page 12, in the impact, talk about the MRD test plan in comparison to Blossom Ridge. Page 13 gives you the master plan suggested. See, the master plan recommends for this area high-density conservation. We look at the high-density conservation as contemplated in our master plan. That's this area identified as such. That is where the 3 to 5 units per acre comes from. It's a good point, Roger, because a lot of the public has raised this concern as well. When they say follow the master plan, and we think we are following the master plan, we talk about senior housing in this area, what they're saying, if I've understood correctly what the input from the public has been, what they're saying is your master plan says high density conservation. That's 3 to 5 units per acre. This applicant is proposing
7 or 8.
7 or 8.
I'll let him answer. He's the one that is proposing.
It could be 50. It's the traffic and the amount of roof.
No, it's the density. Say density.
Hey, Rod, you did so well so far, Bob. Just hang on a little bit longer.
But this is open
I
forum.
know it's hard.
7.38 is what.
7.38 is what is proposed, and the high density conservation is 3 to 5, and you say 4 is in the middle, and 7.38 is about double that, right? So on the surface, on its face, you say, whoa, that's way more density than should be allowed. Until you look at the comparison of what that density does, when you say 3 to 5.8, if you had condominiums and an average, garages and so forth, their average total square feet in a master plan suggested 3 to 5 units per acre would be 412,305 square feet. Blossom Ridge, the proposal we have in front of us, says with the higher density counts, even with that, the total square footage is 352,524. So it's representing, if the math is correct, it's representing that there is a difference of 59,781 square feet compared to what the high density master plan suggested 3 to 5, high density conservation master plan suggested 3 to 5 units per acre would produce, representing a 17% smaller, 17% less square footage.
Is that of roofs or of residences?
Which is on page 15.
So this whole section from page 12 through 15 or 16 is, I think, worthy of further discussion and analysis, but because they don't just take the master plan suggests high-density conservation, but as a point of comparison, when we looked at that from an open space standpoint, high-density conservation was 10%. They're offering 45%, 44 and change. The master plan says high-density conservation, that's 3 to 5 units per acre, which requires a total square footage of 412,305. They're proposing a higher density, but a lower square footage. So yes, the density as proposed is higher, but the open space is 4 times what we would get under high-density conservation. The open space, the square footage is 17% less than we would get with high-density conservation. Unless I'm missing something. We also compare it to MRD in both cases, I don't know all of them, and the RM, right? And that's what those pages are doing. So I think it is worth exploring. See, do we buy these numbers? Do you buy these numbers as a planning consultant, Mr. Nix?
And by the way, if I could just interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
That's one dimension. The other dimension that we have to cover is the infrastructure.
Yes.
That ties in the traffic, and so maybe they're very, very local.
Well, infrastructure, are you referring to roads?
Roads is part of that.
Do you think you'd have more roads?
Services might be part of that.
Okay, but do you think you'd have more roads, more road footage? How do you measure that? More road?
Well, okay, and again, I think it's going to be a longer discussion than we have tonight, but
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting that it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we cover those points, to make sure we square with that, that verbiage there.
I agree. In addition, see, this proposal has not only roads, but also parking lot for that bigger building, right? And so you'd have to add the parking lot into the road calculations. Okay, you got those two combined, but now when you compare that to if we had single-family homes, we had to have a road get to each one of them, it's probably interesting.
Okay, so then,
What page?
I gave Dr. Schultz the book. It's tabbed.
Thank you.
We have driveways. Jen, where's the driveways?
Well, it's in here somewhere. It's in this document.
Yeah.
We'll find it.
Oh, it's page 10.
Just for a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
10 and 11 give you parking spaces. The summary table is at the bottom of page 11. Blossom Ridge, 543 parking spaces. Spaces per acre density is 1411. High density, which is a master plan, high density conservation master plan recommended is 616 spaces, which is 16 spaces per acre of density. And so again, they're under that number. So it's more strict than like. May I suggest this? We made a lot of progress tonight, but we're not done with this discussion by any stretch of the imagination. Next month, we receive some new information from the developer, from the applicant, for consideration. We'll receive it early enough that if Larry would like to opine on that new information, or perhaps something he's heard from here, we may see a 5th report from Mr. Nix on this project, or perhaps just some supplemental to this one. But we do have other things on our agenda, and I would like to suggest that we move on I don't think we need to hear any more tonight from the applicant. We've gotten good information as we've gone along. We've heard that they're going to provide more information for our consideration next month. I would like to give a few minutes, only a few minutes, in the event that the public who has waited so patiently, as much as it darn near killed Mr. Stern to do so. But I would like to do that, not so much in a formal sense, but nevertheless, I would ask that you do the following. Number one, take the podium, give your name and address for the record. Number two, you keep your comments succinct. And number three, don't waste the precious few minutes we've got for this portion by repeating what you've already heard. And if you wouldn't mind...
I'd like to set a limit on for this.
10 minutes.
Because, okay, 10 minutes, because we have...
10 minutes?
10 minutes total, not 10 minutes for you.
Okay, so 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
My name is Frank Furiolo.
Please.
Podium,
There's
please.
only about 12 of us in here.
But the reason is that they're recorded.
For cameras?
It's recorded.
My name is Frank Furiolo. I'm at 5600 Kirkridge Trail. And I know that we talked earlier about the purpose of the structures and whether or not they are, and when others were built, that the purpose was as a single-family unit that people would own. Not necessarily so with this. As a matter of fact, my impression is that no individual will own any one of these properties. That in fact, what we have here is a retail operation set up for older people at different stages of their lives, but it's a rental or a lease. Nobody's buying anything. I just want to make sure that the board is aware of that, and if I am incorrect, I would like to be told.
Thank you. While we wait for the next person, I will address that. We did talk about that. We did talk about whether it really is relevant and germane to the...
Ms. Wallach was kind of under the impression that somebody could still buy property.
I think we came to the conclusion it doesn't matter.
That's correct.
So it's a commercial
I
operation.
just want to make sure that the board understands that it doesn't matter according to the board. It doesn't matter to other people, but the board has concluded that it doesn't matter.
We've concluded that it's not
There's a
relevant to
difference
the...
between 10% and 100%.
Yes.
100% of these units will be rentals. 10% of any houses that have already been constructed in the area might be rented out.
You know
There's a
something
big
I don't?
difference.
You know something I don't?
All right, look, this is not a debate, as we've talked about before, and I don't want to chew up the 10 minutes that we've allowed for this. I do get the opportunity here to use a quote I heard earlier that I thought was kind of interesting, and that is that I'm only responsible for what I say, not for what you understand. But if you would like to be the next...
Sure, I'm going to be brief here. And I know Dominic and Mr. Wetfall made some accommodations. Just a couple of clarification. The setback from Adams to the nearest unit off of Adams Road, and I think the plans have changed now, it's like 200 feet, is that?
We haven't seen the new plans that will show a setback from Adams to the rear of the units.
Okay.
Well, the big building is 220 feet from Adams Road west. The main building, the big building, is 220 feet setback. It has not been determined up in the northeast corner yet what that setback is going to be that the gentleman talked about this evening. The plan has not been submitted yet.
Okay, and if the plan had been submitted also for elimination of the third story? I know it was talked about.
Yes.
Okay, so and did that third story just disappear, or did it go on the east side?
No, it disappeared from the configuration that you see. The density didn't change, but the building that is facing Adams is a 2-story building now, not a 3-story building. The other one is still a 3-story building. They've adjusted their configuration accordingly.
Okay, and then the setback on the west side Has that changed at all from your original submission?
Setback on the west side